Please welcome once again President and CEO of Jordan Advertising and Chair of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, Rhonda Hooper.
Welcome back, everyone. I sure hope you're enjoying your lunch, and thank you. I understood there was a flat tire on I-235, and that's why everybody kind of came at once. So appreciate you being here. And please feel free to continue eating as we resume our program. But before I bring up our keynote speaker, we'd like to recognize all of our local and state elected officials who are with us today. Would you please stand and let us say thank you? Ken, you're by yourself. Oh, there's Melissa. All right, thank you. We appreciate everything you're doing for us every day. Okay, there was too much laughter over here. What's y'all's problem? Okay. I'm very pleased to introduce you to our keynote speaker today. Jim Carroll is one of the world's leading international futurists and an expert in trends and innovation. He's recognized worldwide as a thought leader and authority on global trends, rapid business model change, business transformation during economic uncertainty, and the necessity for fast-paced innovation. His 20-year track record of inspiring organizations to innovate in the face of transformative change include clients like the Professional Golf Association of America, Walt Disney Corporation, and NASA. Businessweek, in fact, named Jim as one of 4 leading sources for insight on innovation and creativity, and he was a featured expert on the CNBC series, The Business of Innovation. Carroll is also an author of 3 books that dig deeper into innovation in an era of unprecedented change. And throughout his career, Carroll's work in internationally sought-after insight has helped transform growth-oriented organizations into high-velocity innovation heroes. Listen up, because we all want to be high-velocity innovation heroes. Please help me welcome Jim Carroll.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You know, I speak at a lot of different events, a lot of different conferences, a lot of different industries. I was in Dallas, Texas last week, Monday morning. I was opening the National Coffee, Tea, and Water Association annual conference. And you know, those events are a little bit different from these events. I was looking out at the audience and realized at that moment in time what I really do for a living to a degree at events like that is I go out and I talk to large groups of hungover people. You know, it's kind of fascinating. So it's nice to talk to you because you're actually paying attention. Now, I speak to a tremendous range of organizations, and what I'm going to do here today, my job today is to freak you out about the speed of change which is unfolding in our world today. But as I do that, I want to plant in your mind, what can I do in the context of these fast-paced trends to turn that into opportunity for the city of Oklahoma and for the state of Oklahoma and for my business and for my industry? Because my favorite phrase, which I coined years ago, is this: some people see a trend, some people see the future and see a threat. Innovators see the same future and the same trend and see an opportunity. It is all about our mindset. Now, regardless of whom I'm speaking to, regardless of the audience, I start out every presentation with 3 trends, 3 statistics which put in perspective the nature of our world today. The very first comes from a study that was done in Australia. They were looking at the future of the education system, future careers, future of knowledge. If we can pull up my slide deck. And buried away in this report was a little statistic that suggested we are in a situation, and you might have heard this observation because it's become a bit of an internet meme. We are in a situation right now in which 65% of children who are in preschool today will work in a job or career that does not yet exist. And that's a reality. That is a reality that is emerging today. And you heard the economists talking, what is the biggest issue going forward? Workforce, 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 skills. We are in an economy in which we have a massive disparity between the skills that we need in a fast-paced economy and the skills that we have. Because we are witnessing the rapid emergence of new jobs and new careers at a furious pace. Second observation, U.S. science education. It is said today that if you are taking any type of degree today based on science, agriculture, architecture, engineering, aerospace, anything having to do with IT, we are in the era of instant knowledge obsolescence. Half of what we learn in our very first year of a college or a university program is obsolete or revised by the time we graduate 3 years later. I was with this digital camera company. I was about to go on stage and I was talking with the CEO, and we were talking about product obsolescence. He indicated to me when they bring the typical digital camera to market. And this is back in the olden days, 5 years ago, when we actually used to buy cameras. You notice we don't even buy cameras anymore because we're using our smartphones to take the pictures. Well, he indicated when they bring the typical digital camera to market, he figures they've got about 3 to 6 months to sell it before it's obsolete. And that's why my favorite phrase comes from the global media magnate Rupert Murdoch, who observed years ago, if you think about what is going on, there's so much change coming at us from so many different directions. It's not history, it's not legacy, it is not what we've done in the past which will define our future success. It is our speed, it is our agility, it is our ability to ingest these fast-paced trends which will define our success. The future belongs to those who are fast. And one thing I always like to do with an audience is, this early on is, put out a question to the audience. Well, how do you think you're doing with this issue of speed? So what I would like you to do is take out your smartphones, and we're going to do a little text message poll here. I want to put to you the question, when it comes to the fast-paced future, how well do you think you are prepared? And here's what you do to participate. Take out your smartphones. It's okay, if you've got a flip phone, take it out. Just hold it under the table because, people will look at you, you got something from the olden days. What you do is you send a text to the number 37607, and if you think you are extremely well positioned for success, you punch into the body of the message 21583, and one of these other options. I'll tell you a little story. I was in Austin, Texas a couple of years ago with the Texas Credit Union League. I had 600 CEOs for credit unions, large and small, from throughout the great state of Texas in the room. And I said, take out your phones, we're going to do a poll. And I could see a whole bunch of these folks going, well, the average age is about 65 plus. Going, I don't know how to text. Do you know how to text? My grandkids want me to text. What do we do here? 3 of them managed to get in a vote. They didn't know how to text. And think about disruption occurring in the world of banking. Apple has turned this into a credit card. Apple controls the speed of innovation in the banking sector. And here I've got a room full of CEOs who barely know how to send a text. Contrast that a couple of weeks later, I go into my son's high school, and they bring 300 kids in the auditorium. 297 out of 300 kids responded in the first 20 seconds. That's your next generation employee. They are wired. Their entire worldview is shaped through their mobile device. So how are we doing so far? Well, look, I've been up here less than 5 minutes and I already got the room freaked out. We are behind in our ability to keep up. We're only somewhat positioned for success. Look at that, extremely well positioned for success. I know who these folks are. These are folks who are in sales. They got up this morning, they looked in the mirror. There's going to be some potential clients in the room. It's going to be a great day. I might close a deal. Just relentlessly optimistic from the start. This issue of speed, this issue of the future belongs to those who are fast is a fascinating issue, and this is where I spend my time. I'm being invited in by some of the largest organizations in the world. Disney, ESPN, The Gap, IBM, the Swiss Innovation Forum, to help them deal with the issue of speed. Now, I work in a home office, and I've got a website, and people find me on the web and things like that. And one morning, it's a Monday morning, the phone rings, and I pick up the phone. It is a potential client on the phone. It's NASA. So National Aeronautics and Space Administration is on the phone. And I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of unique. They said, Jim, we found you on the internet. We've watched some of your video. We've read your materials about about innovation. We're having a leadership meeting with our top brass. We would like you to come in and talk to us about the future of space. I remember looking at the phone and thinking, this is a really weird phone call for Monday morning. This is not normal. So I said to them, well, who's going to be in the room? And they said, well, we're going to have some astronauts. We're going to have the head of the ISS. We're going to have the Mars program team group. We're going to have our leadership team. We're going to have some astrophysicists. We're going to have people who are studying black holes and deep matter and the origins of the universe. But we would like you to come in and talk to us about the future of space. I said, well, okay, I'll do that. So we did up the contract. It was about a week before I'm putting together my PowerPoint presentation. And I start realizing myself, these are really intelligent people. I mean, what can I possibly talk to them about in terms of the future of space? I start going through my mind. The future, space, George Jetson. There's a connection, right? I mean, that's a little spacey. He worked at Spacely Sprockets. So I started talking about George. I dug out these pictures of George and I put them on my slide deck. Why would I talk to NASA about the Jetsons? Do you remember this TV show? It appeared. I actually spoke in Tokyo 3 weeks ago for Nikon's 100th anniversary. I had people from 38 countries from around the world. They all knew the Jetsons. It appeared in 1962. It purported to show what the world would look like in the year 2062, 100 years later. It was a futuristic prediction. But think about what is going on in the show. George is using Skype. George is using FaceTime. George is getting his news off of the internet via some sort of flat screen, TV-like, iPad-like device. And my point for NASA was this. Maybe the very first thing that we should think about when we're thinking about trends in the future is to realize it's coming at us with greater speed, greater intensity. It is accelerating. And then I'm thinking to myself, look, this is a good introduction, a little bit of a relationship with the audience, a little bit of humor at the start. And then I'm thinking to myself, how many times in my life am I going to be invited in to speak to NASA? I mean, it's not going to happen often. Look, there's no way that I'm going into NASA and not putting up a picture of Spock. I got to put up a picture of Spock, right? So I found this photo of Spock. Are there Trekkies in the room? We know you're out there, right? There's Trekkies everywhere. And apparently what I learned the first time I used the photo, it's the wrong photo, and they all spazzed out, and they came up to the stage afterwards, they got all defensive. I don't care. I'm sticking with the photo. The story is what is important. What Spock is holding in his hands in that photo is a medical tricorder. It's a little device that he could hold next to the head of a human or an alien and get an instant physiological readout. 23rd century stuff from 300 years in the future. Could you imagine what we could do for the never-ending debate on healthcare reform if we had medical tricorders at our disposal? Well, we live in the era of the grand challenge. We live in the era of the X Prize challenge. The X Prize is a global initiative challenging the global scientific community to solve some of the biggest problems of our time, having to do with education, water, the environment, healthcare. Qualcomm, which is the subject of a big buyout bid right now, put together a $10 million prize, challenging the global scientific community. Look, if you can develop a device that will do 13 physiological measurements simply by holding it to someone's head, we'll award you $10 million. Well, the reason I brought this up at NASA was during the conference planning call with their senior leadership team, it became evident to me that they did not know that out at NASA's Ames Research Laboratory in California, a group of 45 NASA scientists got together to decide to pursue the $10 million prize. They went out to Kickstarter, a crowdfunding platform, to raise the money to develop what they called the Xanadu Scout, the medical tricorder of the 23rd century, which I hold in my hands here right now. I can hold this little device to my head. It will Bluetooth tether to my phone. This will right now take my blood pressure. It will take my pulse. It will run an EKG of my heart. It will take my oxygen level. They didn't actually win. Another organization won the prize because it could do live instant glucose testing and other measurements. The point of this is that we thought this stuff was 300 years away. And it is here today. It is here right now. The future is coming at you with staggering speed. And the big question for you in the room is, what are you going to do collectively, individually, to align yourselves to the future rather than deny the reality of what is occurring? Bill Gates once made the observation that most folks tend to overestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 2-year basis. They underestimate how much change will occur on a 10-year basis. Think about how quickly our world is changing. 10 years ago, we were barely using YouTube. 10 years ago, Facebook was a place where teenagers hung out before the parents came along and wrecked it, and they all went off to Snapchat. 10 years ago, Twitter was barely used. Twitter was barely a part of our life. And look at the impact it is having now. We seem to be on the edge of a possible thermonuclear war launched by angry tweets. Where are we going to be in 10 years in terms of the context of fast-paced change? What I have come to realize is this. As I started thinking about the Jetsons years ago, I realized that what was really happening was everything they predicted has become true today. I went out and I downloaded the entire TV series, and I started watching it. One day the kids came home from college, and Dad is on the couch, and he's watching the Jetsons. What are you doing, Dad? Business research, guys, trust me. This is critically important, but it's fascinating as you go through the show. Self-driving flying cars. It's all over the show. I'm off to Dubai in February for an event at the invitation of the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates to talk about the future. And look at what they're doing in Dubai. Let's take existing drone technology, let's scale it up and stick a human in it. And there's our flying car. There's actually an episode where Elroy has a drone. And Elroy is flying the drone overhead just with those drone technologies that we have today. I was with the CEO of Maytag and Whirlpool in Chicago a few months ago, talking about the impact of the Internet of Things on the kitchen of the future. The automated kitchen, push-button appliances. That's all predicted in terms of where we're going. Virtual reality, shopping, Amazon.com. Jane is trying on clothes at home using virtual reality technology, and it is delivered in an instant with a knock at the doorbell. Amazon Prime was predicted in the Jetsons. There's actually an episode where they have an Apple Watch, where George actually has an Apple Watch. I mean, it's staggering as you go through this thing, an Amazon Echo device. There's actually an Amazon Echo device in the Jetsons. One day I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. I let out a little scream, and the wife and the kids come around. Everything okay, Dad? They actually predicted Snapchat in the Jetsons. Do you know what's really fun about, this particular thing? All the baby boomers in the room are giving a little bit of nervous laughter because they don't get the humor behind this. And anybody on the age 25, they get it. It's about changing your face, changing your mask. Kind of fascinating to think about the future in terms of the Jetsons. That's it. Thank you very much. We enjoyed the talk. But seriously, they actually predicted American politics today. There was a movie that came out a few years after the show was released called The Jetsons Meets the Flintstones. And it's sort of like, the folks who are in the world of solar and renewable and smart grids and the Internet of Things and et cetera, meets the folks who are into coal and wish that we would stay in the world of Ozzie and Harriet in the 1950s. It's kind of fascinating. I'm from Toronto, Canada. 95% of my events are outside of the country. It's always kind of fascinating coming down here and speaking because you are living in the midst of this big, fascinating, complex reality TV show. And we're all wondering, where is it going to go? What's going to happen? How's it going to unfold? This is the most complex TV show of all time. Before I talk about the trends, I want to ask you, what do you think is going to happen to the Oklahoma economy? Let's do another little poll here. Do you think going out, your business model, look at that, somebody voted. There's a futurist voting, and they voted before I put it up. Do you think that the local economy will exist in just about the same form? Will it no longer exist? Will it have disappeared? Will it have been significantly disrupted? And I'll tell you another little story while you're collectively voting. Again, send a text to 37607, punch in one of these numbers. You might have gone to a conference in the last 5 or 10 years when you walked in the back of the room, they handed you a little polling technology stick, and it had 4 buttons. That technology was all the rage to do in-room polling at a conference facility like this 5 years ago. To outfit this room with that technology 5 or 10 years ago, the hardware cost was probably $50,000. That technology is now old, dead, obsolete, gone. Because all I'm doing here is I'm using the technology that you have in your pocket and a service in the cloud. That's how quickly our world is changing. Look at the expectations in the room. It's no longer going to exist. It will have been significantly disrupted. We know that we are in the midst of a period of time of absolutely rapid change. And I find some of these discussions and some of the things occurring, with this reality show to be absolutely fascinating. I do a tremendous number of talks in the manufacturing sector. And, there seems to be this wish that we can wave a magic wand and a whole bunch of jobs are going to come back. Let's consider the reality of what has occurred. In 1980, 24% of the US labor force was involved in manufacturing. Today, that number is but 8%. Yes, we know that 5 million jobs have vanished. But where have they gone? Robotics, automation, and skilled activities have replaced more of those workers than have migrated to Mexican or Chinese facilities. These are real numbers that are publicly available. Today, US Factories produce twice as much as they did in 1984, but with fewer workers, by 1/3. Manufacturing as a percentage of GDP is barely changed. The reality of what is occurring is much of the US manufacturing has shifted from the northern states, which rely upon brute force manufacturing methodologies invented in 1920, to the southern states that have made significant investments in workforce, advanced manufacturing capabilities, advanced skills, advanced technologies. We don't get ourselves into the future by waving a magic wand and hoping that the past comes back. We get ourselves into the future by aligning ourselves to the trends by which we will do business today. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, just before the shooting in Las Vegas, at the Nevada Economic Development Council. And it was a talk on where is the economic development going to come in the future outside of the gaming and hotel and tourism industry. And one of the things we talked about is organizations which are making the investments to align themselves to the future, organizations which are investing in smart cities, smart highways, smart infrastructure, skilled workforces, will be those who will define and discover economic success. Those who align themselves to the future rather than to the past. Think about the period of time in which we find ourselves today. We live in an absolutely staggering period of time in which a whole bunch of trends all of a sudden are coming together. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, the Internet of Things, 3D printing, advanced robotics, data spatial awareness, location intelligence. All of a sudden we have a whole bunch of stuff coming together which is turning on the imagination machine of people who have vision worldwide, who are sitting back and saying, I can do things which are absolutely fascinating. Think about self-driving cars. We weren't really talking about this 5 years ago. I was at Mercedes-Benz headquarters in Detroit yesterday for a senior leadership meeting on how quickly this trend is coming about. I spoke on stage in Phoenix a few months ago at a trucking conference. The CEO of the American Trucking Association was on stage, and he said, I used to think self-driving trucks were 25 years away. I now think that they are 25 years or less. I can go into any single industry, any industry that is in the room, and point out where your industry is not going to look anything in 5 or 10 years, what it looks like today. I spoke to 500 utility executives out in California a couple of weeks ago. 500 utility executives, and the reality of what is occurring in the world of energy is we are hitting grid parity faster than we think. The ability to generate a unit of energy using solar and wind and biofuel and alternative sources is fast beginning to get below the cost of producing that unit of energy via traditional carbon gas, natural gas, coal, nuclear. This is scientific reality. The reality is that we are in the midst of a period of time in which there is a staggering number of trends coming together all at once. It's how do we align ourselves to these trends and turn these trends into opportunity which will define our success. I speak at a tremendous number of conferences in the agricultural sector. Think about what is going on in the world of agriculture. The world of self-driving cars, autonomous vehicle technology. It's happening quicker with combines and tractors and precision farming, which is helping us to achieve this year-over-year yield increase in the world of agriculture, which is critical because the simple fact is this: there is little new arable land coming to the global marketplace. We have to double food production to keep up with population growth. Talk about opportunities. Farmers get this. Farmers understand the world is a world of unprecedented opportunity. Part of the trend which is unfolding here is that every single industry is becoming a software industry. Technology is the story going forward, obviously. Think about what happens in the world of insurance. Insurance used to be an industry where we would look back in time at your past behavior and underwrite an insurance policy based upon that knowledge. Insurance is an industry which is being determined by technology. If we stick a GPS device in your car, we can now monitor your driving behavior in real time and underwrite your insurance based on real-time driving behavior. We're shifting insurance to a world of looking forward as opposed to looking back based upon technology and connectivity. Think about a world of life insurance in which we've got medical tricorders and a company can choose to underwrite my life insurance policy, my wellness policy, based on real-time data and insight. I'm talking with CEOs of life and P&C companies about this type of reality in which speed is coming at us with a staggering pace. Do you know the typical acre of corn is putting off 5 gigabytes of data a year? An acre of corn is putting off so much information because we can fly satellites over it, we can fly drone sensors over it, we can embed sensors and intelligent connectivity in the ground, and we can understand what is happening in terms of humidity, soil health, plant disease, nutrients, growth patterns. And all of a sudden, what is driving these global mega mergers of all the agricultural giants is the data in the world of precision farming. You know, we're in a world in which retail is being changed by the rapid ingestion of new technology. My son went into a local Home Depot the other day, and it's a test facility. And they have an in-store GPS technology. And you go in, you indicate the product you want, and it gives you a GPS map, and it will beam it to your phone as to where to find it in the store. The world of retail is bound up in a world in which there is a flood of new technology coming at us at the same time that cash registers disappear and become something from the olden days. Every single industry is becoming a technology industry. What happens here is that Moore's law defines the speed of change. Now, Moore's law is the law that the processing power of a computer chip doubles every 18 months and the cost cuts in half. And this law is coming to every single industry where things happen faster. LiDAR is a very good example. Now, if you've seen the Uber self-driving cars in Philadelphia, LiDAR is the technology, the little spinny thing on the top, which gives the car vision. Where are the laneways, where are the road, where are the buildings, where are humans? The cost for LiDAR, which gives us self-driving capability vision, is collapsing. Going from $70,000 to $250 to $90. Look, a couple of years from now, we'll be able to go into Radio Shack and for $1 buy a little LiDAR unit. Hey, did you notice Radio Shack isn't around anymore? You know, what is happening here is an exponential cost collapse and the acceleration of Moore's law into every single industry. All of Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover have had me in because they realize that the organizations that control the pace of innovation in the banking sector today are companies like Apple and PayPal and Facebook and Google. And the entire future of the credit card industry is now being determined by companies that can innovate a heck of a lot faster than they can. These are discomforting messages, but the reality is the future belongs to those who are fast. We live in a world in which science itself is exponentiating. We seem to be in a world in which some people don't believe that science exists. Science is fake news. Well, let's talk about batteries. Batteries are one of the most fascinating industries out there today. The cost of lithium-ion storage is following that collapsing cost curve, which is accelerating a whole variety of industries. It's not just about electric vehicles. It's about the future of the energy grid. Because I'm dealing with utility companies which are talking about architecting 24-hour solar power plants. You know, if the sun's only up 9 hours a day, it doesn't matter. We can store excess energy into the battery so that it can be reused and powered back out to the grid later on during the day. And the acceleration of battery technology is driving advances in terms of what we can do with utilities. Batteries are accelerating the pace of innovation of what is occurring with drone technology. I found this research paper where a fellow was talking about the future of drones. And what do we want to do with drones? We want to keep them in the air longer. We want to make them lighter. And that's all about the batteries. And he was writing about 13 different battery technologies beyond lithium ion, which is helping us to achieve that holy grail. Do you remember The Graduate, the movie The Graduate, where the older fellow is talking to Dustin Hoffman, and he says, I've got one word for you about the future: plastics. I have one word for you about the future: it's batteries. You know, what I realized, and I wrote a blog post about this, was all of the scientific advances occurring with battery technology, which floats into so many different industries at such a staggering speed. World of human genomics. A lot of bioscience companies in the room. Think about what is happening with the cost of doing genomic sequencing. It cost $3 billion to sequence the first human genome. By 2009, that was down to $100,000, $10,000 last year, $1,000 this year. We'll be able to go in the same Radio Shack, if it existed, and buy for $1 a little human genomic sequencing machine. What is the impact of a collapsing cost of genomics? It's manifold. Number one, in the world of pharmaceuticals, we can now engineer particular pharmaceutical solutions, pharmacogenetics we call it, that are targeted to small subsets of the population who carry a particular genetic sequence. In essence, what we do with the world of genomics is we understand what segments of the population are going to become sick with, and we re-architect the delivery of healthcare resources based upon that knowledge. I had my 23andMe test done. I am not at risk for Alzheimer's or cystic fibrosis or other tragic genetically inherited diseases. And so I have a good understanding of some of the risks I might be faced with going into the healthcare system in the future. I understand when I spoke to the National Coffee, Tea and Water Association last week, I am actually a fast coffee metabolizer from a genetic perspective. And I carry the gene which puts me at a lower risk of a heart attack from excessive coffee consumption. I mean, this is like 4 or 5 cups in the morning, folks. I carry the gene which is common to most high-speed sprinters. Like, look at me. And, it's kind of fun, when the Olympics were on and, Usain Bolt was on TV, I was driving my kids nuts. Hi, cuz, there's my cuz there, fellow sprinter. But what the world of genomics really does is it takes us into a world in which we fix people after they're sick. Or before they're sick, instead of after they're sick. Genomics has a huge impact in the world of agriculture. Because what we can now do is we can engineer plant varietals for particular soil conditions. I was talking to one researcher that we can now engineer a particular seed varietal that fits a microclimate pattern in eastern Iowa that is entirely different from what we might do in western Iowa. The acceleration of science is taking us into a world of absolutely unprecedented opportunity. All of this is happening in the context in which, because of these scientific trends, the essence of what we are doing in terms of R&D is fundamentally changing. I was found by the CEO of Pacific Gas and Electric, the largest energy utility on the West Coast. And he brought me into San Francisco to do a film for his staff one day that was based upon the premise that, look, when Napster was around, we were all stealing and sharing music. And what happens in a world in which you've got a little bit of backyard solar and you've got a little bit of backyard wind and you've got a little bit of backyard biofuel on your farm? We shared music through Napster. Why don't we share our energy? Why don't we create our own little microgrid? Why don't we increasingly opt out of the traditional energy grid and share our energy and create our own little grid and thereby disrupt the utility industry? And the CEO of the largest energy utility in the US thought it important to paint a picture for his staff that their industry could be fundamentally and forever disrupted by the era of distributed energy resources. Distributed energy resources are growing right now 3 to 5 times faster than investment in large power facilities. We are in a situation in which one California utility estimates that they will now spend more on microgrid and community and small-scale grid initiatives based on cooperative energy sharing than they will on traditional investments. We are in a situation in which this is driving the acceleration of the trends towards electric vehicles. When I was with Mercedes yesterday, they plan to be a fully electric fleet by the year 2025, if not sooner. Because what we are achieving with grids and what we are achieving with batteries and what we are dealing with in the acceleration of the science of electric vehicle technology is the arrival of the electric vehicle renaissance faster than we ever thought. A lot of innovation is occurring with small organizations. If any of you ever accept credit cards, you know the process of accepting credit cards and becoming a credit card merchant is an excruciating process. You have to go to a bank, you have to apply for loans, you have to provide a credit history. It's a very long and complicated process. And along comes a little organization in San Francisco called Square, which comes up with a little device that you plug into your iPhone, you swipe your credit card through it, and 3 days later the money shows up in your bank account. And all of a sudden, Visa, MasterCard, American Express realize that their future is being determined by a small company out in San Francisco. We are in a world in which the acceleration of drone technology, a lot of this is occurring in small-scale startups. I was with 250 cattle ranchers in Tucson at a conference last April. There were a whole bunch from Oklahoma. These were the largest cattle ranchers in the US. Probably in the room we had ranchers who were representing $1 billion worth of cattle. And we were talking about the acceleration of drone technology used in the cattle space. Did you know there are Fitbits for cows? We can put Fitbit-like devices on cows to understand herd health. And we can fly a drone over a herd to get an instant herd health assessment. And the acceleration of this technology, which is changing what we can do in the ranching and agricultural community, is occurring to a large degree in small organizations who are determining the future of big industries. We are in a situation in which massive business model disruption is unfolding everywhere. We're all talking about Amazon buying Whole Foods. We're all talking about a world in which we are increasingly doing shopping online. And Amazon actually has a store that they are prototyping out in Seattle, which is going to be a part of our life before we know it, in which we don't even have cash register attendants. We walk into the store, there are intelligent connected products that talk to our smartphones and add those products to our shopping cart, and when we walk out the door, the payment happens. Massive disruption occurring in every single industry. When I was with Mercedes yesterday and with Volvo Trucks a number of months ago, talking about the future of the sharing economy, what happens in a world in which we no longer buy cars, in which we are engineered by behavior and business models to not purchase a vehicle? And what happens in that world when we're on an automotive lot and we are expecting to underwrite that automotive loan policy through a mobile device in a minute or less? And then we're expecting to do the underwriting of our automotive loan policy in the same way. I'm with a whole bunch of insurance brokers in Austin, Texas, back in next January, talking about what happens in a world of disruption. And what is the role of the insurance agent in this world in which consumer behavior is changing faster than ever before? We are in a world in which organizations are having to reinvent themselves faster. Apple is in a situation right now where 60% of their revenue comes from products that didn't exist 4 years ago. And that is becoming the barometer for every single type of organization. Think about a car. Think about if you have a car from the year 2013 or 2014 in the dashboard experience compared to the dashboard experience of today. Your car of 2013, 2014 looks like it's from the olden days because it's old, it's clunky, because it's like having an MS-DOS computer in an iPad world in which Tesla is bringing out essentially iPads on wheels. And think about what happens to the resale value of that vehicle and how the reality of what is going forward is that connectivity and megahertz are the new horsepower in the automotive industry because they have to reinvent themselves at the speed that consumers come to expect in a fast-paced world. It's even happening in the world of energy. Fast-paced trends by which energy companies are reinventing themselves using advanced technologies, micro-drilling, laser-based drilling, water-free fracking. Let's reinvent the methodologies of what we can do and how we do it, utilizing advanced technologies to extract more energy from the ground. Let's not tie ourselves to the methodologies and process of the past. Let's align ourselves to the trends of the future. We're in a world in which everything is plugging in. One of the most fascinating trends of our time is that everything which is a part of our daily life is going to be plugged into the internet. Now, this could get weird. Could get really out of hand. Look, maybe one morning I'll get on my weigh scale. It's going to send an email over to my fridge, don't let Jim in today. He's not living up to the terms of his deal. Then it's going to contact my insurance company and cut off my wellness coverage, right? So it could get weird, but have you thought about what is happening with streetlights? Streetlights are becoming connected. We are in a world that what is happening with streetlights. Streetlights are turning into Fitbits for cities. We can put environmental sensors in them to assess and monitor municipal air quality, remote dimming and brightening so that we can become more intelligent in our energy spend. There's actually a company who has realized that the inevitable trend to electric vehicles, why not turn streetlights into car charging stations and have a credit card transaction capability built into the streetlight so somebody can come along and plug into the streetlight and charge up and pay for that use? Why not turn them into devices which provide for intelligent highway management? Because the era of smart cars isn't just about cars becoming smart, it's about highways and the infrastructure around highways becoming smart. Why not turn them into Wi-Fi stations so we've got massive connectivity throughout the city? In the world of healthcare, we've got these devices by which we can monitor the health and blood pressure of patients from afar. And I am talking to healthcare institutions who are realizing this is taking us to a world in which healthcare goes virtual. Hospitals are no longer defined by the four walls of their building, but by the extended reach of the virtual networks and the medical device connectivity that they put out into the community. We are in a world in which the very essence of the way that we build things is changing. I'm a golfer. I'm not a very good golfer. And a couple of weeks ago, I show up at the first tee, and we get to the first green, and there's a fellow with his funky wedge, really different looking wedge. And I said, "Oh, where'd you buy that?" He said, "I had it 3D printed." He's an engineer, he's a tinkerer, and he conceived this idea for a wedge and he sent it off to a 3D contract printer manufacturer to have it printed for him. Proceeded to duff his shot, and he said, "I go back and redesign, I'll get a new one in about a week." Who would have believed we would be in a world in which a fellow would be showing up at the golf course with a 3D printed golf club? I was the opening keynote speaker last October for the American Concrete Institute, talking about the future of concrete. It was a really hard presentation. I had to make sure it had a solid foundation. Had to make sure that the message could settle. I drove my family nuts. No more concrete jokes, Dad. And it was right around that time that I got booked by the North American Mushroom Council to come in and talk. Why did they book me? Because I'm a really fun guy. But you know, we are in the point we can 3D print structures. They actually 3D printed in concrete a facility in Dubai. We are 3D printing in concrete homes in China. We are in the world in which we've got an Uber for 3D printing, a company called 3Discovered. And if I am engineering product, I can contact 3Discovered and they will line me up with excess 3D printing capacity somewhere in the world. 3D printing is changing the manufacturing industry at a staggering pace, where GE Aviation is already printing 30 to 40% of very specialized jet engine nozzles using specialized 3D printing technologies. Adidas is building an entire manufacturing plant in Germany by which I can custom order a particular type of sneaker that fits my particular foot metrics, and they will 3D print it in this new billion-dollar facility based on 3D printing technology. Are they going to come to Oklahoma? Are you going to have the skills and the initiative and the support and the advanced technology insight to support these initiatives? And then there's the computer gamers. You know, the gaming generation, there's some of you in the room, people under the age of 25, 30. I was a lunar lander guy in basic. I didn't get involved in a lot of gaming. You know, they actually had a League of Legends competition in the New York, in the Staples Center in Los Angeles recently. 25,000 people showed up to watch 4 guys play League of Legends, a video game competition, which was shown on big screens in the center of the auditorium. 25,000 people showed up to watch 4 guys play League of Legends on the big screen. That's staggering to think about what is happening. People are actually showing up to watch people play video games. That's not staggering. 43 million people showed up worldwide to watch 4 guys play League of Legends on a big screen in the Staples Center in Los Angeles. 43 million people tuned in on their laptops to watch people play video games. This kid is coming into the workforce. This kid is wired differently. They think differently. They are interactive, they are virtual. I'm talking to manufacturing companies where the reality of what is unfolding already is virtual welding, utilizing the same concepts of being virtual. To do welding in a facility that might be 3,000 miles away, Audi has a prototype vehicle, which isn't just self-driving, it's virtual driving. We are in a reality in which 5 years away or less, we will be able to outsource the driving of a trucking fleet to somebody overseas. This is a reality. Staggering social, economic, and political consequences. You got it. Are we going to wave a magic wand to make the trend go away? Not a chance. The future is coming at us with staggering speed. Business models are realigning. When we develop this level of connectivity and acceleration, what is happening is companies are realizing the products that they sell have fundamentally changed. Remember the Maytag repairman? He was lonely, never came to your house because the products never were down. We actually had a Maytag washer that broke. The fellow showed up at our door a couple of years ago, and he came in. We thought he'd have a toolbox. He had a laptop. And he plugged in the washer and basically reprogrammed it, rebooted it, and it worked. When I was with the CEO of Maytag and Whirlpool, we were talking about the fact that they know that they are no longer an appliance company. They are a computer technology company that happens to build highly connected, intelligent appliances that wash your clothes and cook your food. And they are in a world in which they know when that washer or dryer is going to break down because of the connectivity they've built into the device. And one day soon, you will be at home and the front doorbell will ring and the Maytag repairman is going to be there. And you're going to say, I didn't call you. No, you didn't, but your washer did. Because we are going into a world of predictive diagnostics. When I was with the CEO of Volvo and Mack Trucks, the typical self-driving vehicle is giving off 7 gigabytes of data per hour. And part of that data has to do with operating performance, engine performance, when things are going to break down. And Volvo is at the point that they know when a particular truck, a particular component on a particular truck is going to break down. And their entire business model is shifting. They're no longer selling you a truck. They're selling you a service uptime guarantee. If they are selling you a fleet of 1,000 trucks, They know when one's going to break down. And they're going to tell you to pull it in for maintenance before you send it out and it breaks down in the deserts of Arizona. And all of a sudden, their fundamental business model shifts. They're selling you a service, not a product. We are in a world in which knowledge is accelerating. The volume of medical knowledge right now is doubling every 8 months or less. We are in a situation in which the volume of knowledge and the type of knowledge that people need to know to do their job is no longer sufficient, and we are not doing enough on workforce retraining to deal with this reality. Who has an internet-connected thermostat in their home? I had one of the first ones in 1997 on my HVAC. My heating, ventilation, air contractor guy came in, and he looked at it and he goes, I can do the wires that go into the furnace and the air conditioner, but this Ethernet stuff, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to wire it into your hub. It's beyond my skill set. And I said, that's okay, I got my 12-year-old to do it, and he did. Think about what has happened here. All of a sudden, the knowledge that that individual needs to know to do their job has forever changed. And what are we doing from a workforce reinvention perspective in the state of Oklahoma to keep up with these trends? What are we doing to prepare ourselves for a world of just-in-time knowledge? When I'm out talking to cattle ranchers and agricultural groups, the rapid emergence of new jobs and new careers. Yeah, automation is making a whole bunch of jobs disappear, but you know what nobody's talking about is the emergence of new jobs that are occurring at the same time. I'm talking to the folks about a reality in which we are getting vertical farming infrastructure managers because we're figuring out in megacities how to build towers 50 stories high in which we can grow food inside the city. I'm talking about drone helicopter insurance crop risk managers, robotic herd health monitors. Talking about the emergence of cattle ranch drone herder infrastructure managers. These are real jobs occurring at a staggering speed. Mercedes is in a rush for skills. Every single automotive company knows that their entire future at this point in time is bound up in their ability to get experts in batteries, experts in electricity, computer experts, spatial data awareness experts, and people who understand penguin behavior. One of the largest automotive companies went out and hired one of the world's leading researchers in penguins. Why? Because a group of self-driving cars will talk to each other. And it's their ability to talk and communicate to each other which will define how they will work together in a pack. And who does that really well? Penguins. Let's go out and hire that guy because he's got the skills to help us get ahead. We are in a global race for skills as the world accelerates. We are in a situation in which industries are virtualizing. Think about what is happening in the world of retail as we all begin shopping online. And we're all focused on how do we do that last mile delivery via Amazon.com, and every single retailer is focused on this. How do we deliver products from our warehouse? And what we are getting is the emergence of this massive new economy to support the fact that we, the consumer, are migrating quickly to this world of online shopping. How do we help organizations with drop shipping? You look at what is happening in the world of automotive. The emergence of a whole bunch of companies with different skills and different capabilities. You look at what is happening in the world of finance. Cryptocurrency experts, Bitcoin experts, folks who are helping us understand the new world of fintech disruption and what we need to do. And then there's the generations. The generations. Let me ask a little question. How many of you, the very first computer course you ever took, involved learning COBOL, BASIC, or Fortran? Hold up your hands. Look at all us baby boomers in the room. Do you know what is so unique about us? We are the only generation ever in the history of mankind who will ever meet the punch card. No other generation ever is going to meet the punch card. And what were we told? Do not fold, spindle, or mutilate. Anybody ever explain what spindle meant? No, we're still mystified. We have no idea. And so the thing is, we grew up in a period of time in which technology was really ugly. My great-grandparents never had to deal with this stuff. My kids, who are now 22 and 24, have never known a world without the internet. They've barely known a world without a mobile device. They've never known a world without massive connectivity. They have never known a world like what we went through. And so when a guy like me gets up here and talks about technology and fast-paced change, we feel a little battered and bruised, a little scared, a little terrified. And Ogden Nash captured this sentiment perfectly when he observed that for some folks, the reality of what is occurring is progress is great, but it's gone on way too long. Make it stop, make it slow down, make it go away. And perhaps it's this type of sentiment which is driving part of the current dysfunction in the American political system. A desire to stand still. But you know what? It's not going to change. And this little cartoon puts things in perspective. In this little cartoon, what is happening here is a child is helping his father install some software on the family home computer. Okay, Dad, you've loaded the disk. Transfer the file here and double-click to open. So what is happening is the father is walking his child is walking his father through step by step how to get a piece of software on the family home computer. And the last frame really captures the unique period of time in which we find ourselves today. See, Dad, that's how you install an internet porn filter. The kid's helping the dad install the porn filter on the... Dad's going to leave the room, the kid will just uninstall the filter. This probably goes on in some homes. And so, the thing I think about us baby boomers, all this fast-paced change and all this stuff, we don't necessarily like change. We don't necessarily embrace change. We like to do this week what we did last week. And we all know that phrase by Einstein, that's a good definition for insanity. The thing is, this next generation is different. This next generation, they thrive on change, they thrive in innovation. They're open to ideas. They haven't had the technological barriers that we grew up with. Look, they never met MS-DOS. And this generation is a force to be reckoned with. 1 out of 2 people on the planet today is under the age of 25. They're wired, they're collaborative, they're entrepreneurial, they multitask. Watch a 12-year-old doing homework. They got 12 screens open on different devices. And they are now coming into industries and saying, we're going to change things in a fundamental way. This is driving big, bold thinking. We have folks coming along like Elon Musk, who is looking at the automotive industry, and rather than an industry in which we build product to inventory, we build 700,000 vehicles and put them out to inventory and hope they sell. We're going to build to customer demand. We're going to build a business model in which they can come to a website and order the product using their credit card, and we'll put it in the production queue. And at the same time, let's reinvent the space industry. Let's put up a rocket in space and bring it down and land it upright. At the same time, let's reinvent the battery industry. In every single industry, there are people who are thinking big and bold, looking to disrupt, and fundamentally changing the norms by which we do business. I found one of the most fascinating statements in the Tesla SEC filing. In the very formal documentary filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, this is what Tesla had to say about the forthcoming Model 3. We have no idea how to do this. We don't have the expertise, we don't have the skills, we don't have the knowledge, but we think we can do it. 400,000 people have bought into a dream for a car that doesn't exist. Anybody in the room buy the Tesla Model 3? I bought one, I put my $1,000 down on it, didn't tell the wife, she got the Amex bill. You bought a what? When do we get it? End of 2018? Maybe? Can we get our money back? We are in a world in which people are thinking big and bold and violating all the traditional norms of business. Our reality is this. Every morning I get up and I take a photo from the stage performance somewhere, and I put a little motivational quote on it. And I put it out on social networks, Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and such. And one morning, this is the thought that came to my mind. There is so much going on right now that we are in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, using materials not yet invented, with manufacturing methodologies that aren't yet in existence. Are you ready for the world of disruption? Because increasingly, this is the reality of where we're going forward. The problem is this, and I'm about 5 minutes to close. We are engineered to avoid what we need to do to deal with a world of fast-paced change. I want to try one more little poll here. What excuse do you hear in your organization? What excuse do you hear in this community that holds you back from pursuing the big, bold ideas that are necessary to get us forward? I've become convinced, having been focused on innovation for 25 years, that there are people who wake up in the morning and the very first thought that comes to their mind is this: what am I going to do today to kill great ideas? Seriously, this is what they do because these are the excuses they use. Think about what happens when somebody comes up with a great idea and we shut it down with the worst phrase we use in the world of American business. You can't do that because we've always done it this way. Never mind, the world is going to go over there really fast. Everything is going to change. And we're going to somehow stay here or go back in time. It won't work. It's too risky. The boss won't go for it. Well, we don't need to do it right now. If we're not going to do it now, when are we going to do it? So the future isn't going to wait for you. The future's going to happen whether you like it or not. And it all goes back to that comment I made at the start. Some people see the future and see a threat. Innovators see the same future and see an opportunity. What we need to focus on is our mindset. My message for you is found in this one. Change your future before the future changes you. Look, the future isn't comfortable. The future is terrifying. When I get up here and talk about all these fast-paced trends, it rocks your boat. It changes your world. It causes concern. And if that is what is happening to you right now, you're not thinking about what you need to think about. What you need to be focused on is there is an unprecedented number of trends unfolding at a staggering pace. How can I align myself to those trends? How can I turn them into opportunity? How can I be a partner to the future rather than the future defeating me? How do you get there? One simple word of advice. What you do is this. You think really big. You start small. You scale fast. We've got to really think really big in terms of the scope of the opportunity which is before Oklahoma. We've got to think really big in terms of what we can do with workforce redevelopment. We've got to think really big what we can do in terms of attracting the next Tesla Motors to this location. Reno, Nevada was forever changed when they chose to locate the Gigafactory there. Think really big in terms of where you can go and examine the gaps that you have. Where are we lacking expertise? Where are we lacking skills? Where are we lacking knowledge? How can we start a whole bunch of small-scale projects in cooperation between everybody in the room to beef up our expertise and our knowledge and our capabilities? And as the future accelerates, how can we accelerate what we can do to achieve great economic success in a world in which the future belongs to those who are fast? Thank you very much. Godspeed. And I think we do have a few minutes for questions, and same thing. We've got some runners in the room with microphones, so brickbats, worries, concerns,
Any
deep
questions of
philosophical
Jim?
questions.
Anybody? I think that they were just,
They're stunned.
it was your accent, out. Thank you for coming out, Jim. Any questions? I tell you, you're
Okay.
amazing. Thank you. We want to be the high-velocity innovation heroes that you were talking about, and we want to think big and appreciate your motivation in getting us there. Thank you to Jim Carroll.
Thank you very much.
All right, as we're leaving, I just want to say that Oklahoma City has seen its fair share of successes over the past few years, and that is definitely not by accident, because it takes all of us to create a strong business climate. And in the future, we want Oklahoma City to be more than successful. We want this community to really be the driver of redefining what success looks like in the new economy. And your chamber is standing ready to help lead us there. The economic trends that we discussed here today will undoubtedly influence how we move forward. So once again, thank you to Arvest Bank, our today's signature sponsor, and to all of our sponsors. And several of them already took off. We are now adjourned. Thank you.